It was a brisk autumn evening in Washington, D.C., when the stage of Voice of America lit up with a brilliance that promised an unforgettable showdown. Under the glow of the studio lights, a palpable excitement buzzed through the air. In a packed studio filled with an eclectic mix of young activists, seasoned pundits, and everyday Americans glued to their smartphones, history was about to be made. At center stage strode Karoline Leavitt, the 27-year-old powerhouse who had already become the face of a new political era. With her golden hair catching every beam of light, her style was unmistakably Gen Z. An oversized black bomber jacket, crisp white sneakers, and an effortless cool that defied convention. Karoline was not just another media personality. She was a symbol, an icon for the younger generation that refused to be silenced by the old guard. Across the stage sat Michael Carter, a veteran of American television and a staunch representative of traditional journalism. His calm demeanor and well-tailored suit spoke of decades spent navigating the complex world of political commentary. Yet, behind his measured smile lay the sharp, analytical mind of a man who had seen too many trends come and go, and was determined to hold the line. As the cameras rolled and the live broadcast began, Michael leaned forward with a glint of mischief in his eyes. "Welcome, Karoline Leavitt," he said, his voice resonant and measured. "You've quickly become the voice of a new era, 27, full of passion and promise. But I can't help wondering, working for Trump, do you ever feel like you're just babysitting a leader who never quite grows up? No cap, right?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. The audience reacted immediately. A mix of laughter, applause, and a few skeptical murmurs rippled through the crowd. Karoline's eyes sparked as she met Michael's gaze, her expression calm and unwavering. With a confident smile, she responded, "Thank you for that warm welcome, Michael. I'm not here to babysit anyone. I'm here to deliver a message from a leader who knows how to turn challenges into triumphs. Trump is building a future for America, and I'm proud to stand by that vision." No cap. As her words echoed through the studio, the atmosphere electrified. Social media was already lighting up, with viewers live-tweeting every biting retort and memorable soundbite. Hashtags like #CarolineNoCap and #GenZVoice began to trend, setting the stage for a debate that promised not only to entertain but also to define a generational shift. The debate soon turned to the nation's economic policies, a subject that had always been contentious. Michael Carter cleared his throat, then leaned in once more. "Karoline, your recent comments about the economic measures taken by Trump when he imposed sanctions on Canada were quite bold. You said, 'Canada is crumbling under the might of American strength.' Tell me, do you truly believe that such a strategy is not only effective but also a testament to American prowess? Or is it simply a display of hubris?" The studio's lights seemed to intensify as Karoline prepared her answer. She took a measured breath, her gaze unwavering as she addressed not just Michael but the entire audience, and by extension, the millions watching online. "Michael, let's be clear. In today's global economy, Canada is just one small player compared to the powerhouse that is America. Imposing sanctions is not about being arrogant. It's about sending a clear message. It's a vibe check for those who underestimate our resolve. And if you don't believe it, just look at the engagement on my posts on TikTok and X. Millions of Americans know that our economic strength is not negotiable." No cap. The applause was instantaneous, punctuated by enthusiastic cheers from a youthful segment of the crowd. For many young Americans, Karoline's unapologetic assertion of strength resonated deeply, reinforcing their belief in a new kind of American leadership, one that wasn't afraid to flex its power in the face of global challenges. But the debate was far from over. Michael shifted the focus to another polarizing issue, the freedom of the press and the question of information control. "Now let's talk about the press," Michael began, his tone growing more serious. "You recently defended the decision to bar AP and Reuters from White House meetings, arguing that it was done to protect the truth from being twisted by biased media. Yet many say this is nothing more than an attempt to control the narrative. Is this truly about safeguarding information? Or is it a dangerous precedent for censorship?" The room fell into a heavy silence as Karoline's eyes narrowed, reflecting both determination and a spark of defiance. Every listener, whether in the studio or online, felt the weight of the question. In a world inundated with instant information, the integrity of the press was a subject near and dear to the hearts of many Americans. Karoline's voice, when it came, was firm and resonant. I believe that traditional media, for too long, has distorted the truth for their own ends. Their narratives often serve to undermine the real issues that affect everyday Americans. In an era of instantaneous information, if you're not smart enough to filter out the noise, you're not contributing to a meaningful dialogue. We're not silencing dissent. We're choosing to amplify voices that truly represent the people. That's not censorship, that's a necessary vibe check on a system that's failed us. No cap. Her words struck a chord with many in the audience. In every corner of America, from college campuses to suburban coffee shops, people were beginning to question the established media order. Karoline's message was clear. It was time to listen to the voices of the people, not the biased narratives of outdated institutions. As the debate raged on, Michael Carter decided to take the discussion to a topic that was the lifeblood of the modern era, social media. "Karoline," he said, leaning back and adopting a more inquisitive tone, "you often flaunt your numbers, your TikTok followers, your X engagement. Tell me, do you really believe that those numbers define the quality of information? Is the strength of one's social media presence truly equivalent to genuine trust from the American people?" For a moment, the studio lights dimmed, and the air crackled with anticipation. Karoline's eyes glittered as she met Michael's challenge head-on. "In today's world," she began, her voice imbued with both passion and precision, "information isn't measured by the clout of a newsroom or the prestige of an institution. It's measured by real-time impact, by the number of shares, likes, and hashtags that spark conversations across the nation. My followers aren't just numbers. They're a community of engaged, informed Americans who refuse to be fed the same tired narratives. When millions of voices join together on platforms like TikTok and X, it's proof that a new kind of trust is emerging. One that's built on authenticity and immediacy. No cap." The crowd roared with approval, their energy fueling a social media frenzy that would soon see clips of Karoline's statement shared millions of times. Within minutes, hashtags exploded across every platform, and the debate's most memorable moments were captured in short, punchy clips that would soon define an era. With the stakes climbing higher, Michael Carter leaned forward one last time, his voice dropping to a tone both measured and challenging. "Karoline, you've been eloquent about your vision, your authenticity, and your ability to connect with the American people. But there's one question that still lingers. Have you ever refused to follow Trump's directives? Or are you simply a beautiful, articulate face meant to mask decisions already made by those in power? In other words, can you truly claim to be independent? Or are you just part of a larger machine?" A hush fell over the studio as every eye turned to Karoline. The question was not just about her loyalty, it was a challenge to the very essence of her identity. For many, it was the ultimate test of whether she was a genuine revolutionary voice or simply a well-managed spokesperson. Karoline took a deep breath. The silence that followed was thick with anticipation. Then, with a calm and resolute voice, she answered, "Michael, I stand before you not as a puppet, but as the embodiment of a generation that refuses to be bound by the chains of the past. I am the voice of Gen Z, a generation that has grown up facing challenges that previous generations could scarcely imagine. I have faced personal hardships and political battles head-on, and I have come out stronger for it. I work with Trump not because I lack my own beliefs, but because I believe in a future where American ingenuity and strength can rebuild our nation. And if I ever disagree, I won't hesitate to speak out. When I say no cap, it means I'm standing by my truth no matter what. I am independent. I choose my own path, and I choose to stand up for what I believe in." Her words were delivered with the calm assurance of someone who had already weathered countless storms. The impact was immediate. The studio erupted in applause, a tidal wave of support that seemed to drown out every doubt. In that moment, Karoline Leavitt wasn't just a spokesperson. She was a symbol of resistance, a beacon for millions who longed for change. As the debate drew to a close, the atmosphere in the studio shifted from intense confrontation to a charged anticipation for what the future might hold. Michael Carter, his expression a mix of respect and unresolved skepticism, offered a final remark. "We live in a time when every voice counts, when every tweet, every clip, every hashtag can spark a movement. But I wonder, when the challenges become even greater, when the weight of reality settles in, will the passion that fuels your generation endure? Only time will tell." Karoline met his gaze squarely, her eyes blazing with determination. "The future of America belongs to those who dare to speak the truth without fear of retribution. Our generation is not defined by the approval of outdated institutions. We are here to forge our own path, to create a future that is as bold and unyielding as our dreams. Deal with it." The resounding declaration sent shockwaves through the audience. In that instant, the stage wasn't just a platform for debate. It had become a battleground for the soul of the nation. As the cameras panned over the roaring crowd, social media exploded in real time. Clips of Karoline's defiant "deal with it" were shared, remixed, and parroted by millions, cementing her status as the voice of a revolution. After the show ended, while Michael Carter sat in the quiet of the studio reflecting on the intense encounter, Karoline retreated backstage. There, in the hushed corridors of the broadcasting center, she took a moment to catch her breath. The adrenaline of the live debate still coursed through her veins. She scrolled through her phone and saw the numbers. Thousands of retweets, countless likes, and an overwhelming wave of support from viewers across the country. In the backstage mirror, as she adjusted her jacket and fixed her hair, Karoline couldn't help but feel a deep sense of purpose. Every challenge, every pointed question had only reinforced her belief in the power of authentic communication. A belief that resonated not only in the corridors of power but also in the hearts of everyday Americans. It was more than a debate. It was the beginning of a new dialogue, one that would echo through the halls of government and reverberate on every social media platform from coast to coast. Outside the studio, the impact of the debate rippled across the nation. By midnight, hashtags like #CarolineNoCap, #VoiceOfGenZ, and #DealWithIt were trending on every major social media platform. Influencers, political activists, and even celebrities joined the conversation, each adding their own voice to the unfolding narrative. Videos of the debate, carefully edited to highlight Karoline's most memorable lines, were shared millions of times, sparking discussions in living rooms, classrooms, and boardrooms alike. In a small apartment in Brooklyn, a group of college students gathered around a laptop, watching the clips on repeat. "This is it," one student exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. "Karoline isn't just talking politics. She's changing the game. We finally have someone who speaks our language, who isn't afraid to call out the old system." Her friends nodded in agreement, each of them inspired by the raw honesty and unfiltered passion that Karoline had brought to the national stage. The following day, as the sun rose over a nation still abuzz with the previous night's events, news outlets across the country scrambled to cover the story. Headlines screamed, "Young press secretary takes on traditional media," and "Karoline Leavitt, the Gen Z voice that's reshaping America." Analysts debated the implications of her performance, with some hailing her as a visionary leader and others warning of the perils of unchecked populism. Yet, amid all the controversy, one thing was clear. Karoline had irrevocably altered the political landscape. In Capitol Hill offices, aides and senators discussed the debate in hushed tones. For many, it was a wake-up call, a sign that the traditional ways of communicating with the American people were no longer sufficient in a digital age. For the older generation, the debate was a stark reminder that the future belonged to those who could harness the power of technology and social media to engage with the public in real time. For Karoline and her supporters, it was a triumph, a validation of their belief that the voice of the people could not be silenced. Behind the public persona and the barrage of social media accolades, Karoline's journey was deeply personal. Born to a modest family in a small town in Ohio, she had seen firsthand the struggles of working-class Americans. Her childhood was marked by long hours at a local diner, a constant reminder that hard work was the only path to success. Yet, Even in the face of hardship, Karoline's spirit remained unbroken. She had always believed that America was a land of opportunity, a place where anyone, regardless of their background, could rise above adversity and make a difference. It was this personal history that gave her the authenticity that resonated so powerfully with millions. Every time she spoke of policies, every time she defended the decision to limit access to biased media, there was an undercurrent of lived experience, a deep-rooted understanding of what it meant to fight for one's place in a rapidly changing world. And it was this very experience that set her apart from the polished, often detached rhetoric of traditional media. As the weeks turned into months, Karoline's star continued to rise. Invitations to speak at rallies, town halls, and even informal gatherings became a regular part of her schedule. Her social media accounts overflowed with messages of gratitude, support, and even challenges. Critics questioned her views, but for every detractor, there were hundreds of supporters echoing her sentiment. A new chapter was being written in the story of America, and Karoline Leavitt was at its forefront. The campaign to reform how information was filtered and transmitted had only just begun. In countless interviews and public appearances, Karoline remained steadfast in her beliefs. "We live in an era where the truth is as much about numbers as it is about facts," she would say. "When millions of voices come together, when we share our experiences in real time, we are not just influencing policy, we are rewriting the narrative. And that narrative belongs to us, the people, not to a handful of gatekeepers in an old fading system." No cap. Her message spread like wildfire. On college campuses, where students felt disillusioned with a system that had long ignored their voices, Karoline became a beacon of hope. In suburban neighborhoods, where families struggled under the weight of economic uncertainty, her insistence on strength and self-reliance resonated deeply. Even in the halls of power, where traditional pundits debated the merits of her approach, there was an undeniable acknowledgement that the status quo was shifting. In quieter moments, when the roar of social media subsided and the flashing lights of cameras dimmed, Karoline would find herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. Sitting alone in her modest hotel room after a long day of interviews and debates, she would open her journal and scribble down her thoughts. These entries, raw, honest, and unfiltered, became a testament to her evolving vision for America. They chronicled the challenges, the moments of self-doubt, and the unyielding belief that a new era was not just possible, but inevitable. One entry read, "Tonight, as I stood before a nation divided by fear and misinformation, I felt the weight of our history. But more than that, I felt the fierce hope of a generation ready to reclaim its destiny. The voices of the past may have guided us, but it is the voices of today and tomorrow that will shape the future. I am proud to be one of them." No cap. By the time the next election cycle rolled around, Karoline's influence was undeniable. Not only had she sparked a conversation about the role of social media in modern politics, but she had also forced a reckoning among traditional media outlets. Networks that once prided themselves on being the arbiters of truth now found themselves scrambling to adapt to a new reality, one where viral soundbites and raw, unfiltered emotion could sway public opinion faster than any carefully curated news segment. Debates began to feature more interactive segments, with live polling and real-time feedback from social media. Political ads and campaign messages were retooled to capture the immediacy of digital engagement, and even policy discussions were increasingly framed in terms that resonated with a generation raised on instant communication. Through it all, Karoline Leavitt remained at the epicenter of the transformation, her every word and gesture a reminder that change was not only coming, it was already here. As her influence grew, so too did the legacy of the movement she had helped ignite. Karoline's fearless approach to debate, her willingness to question established norms, and her unyielding commitment to speaking the truth became rallying cries for millions across the country. From grassroots organizing to national campaigns, the message was clear. The old ways were giving way to a new vision of America, one that was inclusive, dynamic, and unapologetically forward-thinking. And while critics continued to question her every move, there was no denying that Karoline had tapped into something fundamental, a desire among Americans to be heard, to participate in shaping their own destiny. The nation had changed, and in many ways, It was just beginning to understand the power of a movement driven by authenticity, resilience, and a relentless pursuit of truth. The debate on Voice of America would be remembered for years to come as a turning point, a moment when the clash between the old and the new was broadcast to a nation hungry for change. Michael Carter's measured skepticism and Karoline Leavitt's fiery determination represented more than just a political contest. They embodied the struggle for the soul of America. As the cameras faded to black and the applause slowly subsided, one thing was clear. The conversation had just begun. In the weeks that followed, media outlets, academic institutions, and political commentators dissected every moment of the debate. Some argued that Karoline's approach was a sign of a dangerous populism that could undermine the very fabric of American democracy, while others celebrated her as a breath of fresh air, a symbol of hope for a generation tired of conventional politics. Yet, regardless of one's political leanings, it was impossible to ignore the profound impact of her words and the undeniable shift they signified. What made Karoline's journey so compelling was not just the rhetoric or the viral hashtags. It was the human story behind them. Here was a young woman who had grown up in a modest household, who had faced hardships that many could only imagine, and who had transformed those struggles into a relentless drive for change. Her story was one of resilience, defiance, and the unwavering belief that every American deserved to have their voice heard. In a nation where every opinion was dissected, debated, and sometimes dismissed, Karoline Leavitt had emerged as a symbol of what was possible when one dared to speak the truth. Her voice had become more than just a soundbite on social media. It had become a clarion call to every individual who believed that America could be better, stronger, and more united than ever before. As the seasons changed and the political landscape continued to evolve, Karoline's impact remained indelible. In the years that followed, many would look back on that fateful night, the night when a young, defiant voice challenged the old guard and dared to rewrite the rules. Her journey was far from over, and with each passing day, the legacy of her words continued to inspire a nation to dream bigger, fight harder, and never settle for the status quo. For Karoline Leavitt, the debate on Voice of America was not the climax but merely the opening chapter of a larger narrative. A narrative of transformation, of innovation, and of a renewed faith in the power of the people. It was a story that would be told in living rooms, classrooms, and digital platforms for generations to come. A story that encapsulated the very spirit of modern America. In the end, the debate was more than a clash of ideologies. It was a testament to the enduring power of storytelling. It reminded every American that change begins with a single voice, that the courage to speak out can ignite a movement, and that in a country built on the ideals of freedom and equality, every generation has the power to shape the future. And as the echoes of that historic night faded into the annals of American history, one thing remained undeniable. Karoline Leavitt had not just won a debate. She had won a place in the heart of a nation ready for a new dawn. In this immersive tale of political passion and cultural revolution, Karoline Leavitt stands tall as a beacon of change. Her electrifying presence on the national stage, marked by defiant, no-cap declarations and a commitment to unfiltered truth, resonated with millions. Through every challenge, every pointed question from Michael Carter, she transformed skepticism into strength, turning a televised debate into a moment of national awakening. Her journey, from a humble upbringing in Ohio to the bright lights of Washington's political arena, is a reminder that the future of America is forged by those who dare to challenge convention. As voices across the nation, both in packed studios and online communities, rallied behind her, Karoline's story became a living testament to the power of authenticity, resilience, and the unyielding belief in a better tomorrow. So as the applause from that unforgettable night continued to echo in social media feeds and political discourse, one message remained crystal clear. The voice of the people is unstoppable, and the future of America belongs to those who have the courage to stand up and say, "Deal with it." And thus, as the narrative of Karoline Leavitt spread like wildfire across the nation, it became a part of American folklore, a story of conflict, transformation, and the promise of a new era where every voice counts. From the electrifying debate on Voice of America to the countless retweets and trending hashtags that followed, Her legacy was etched into the collective consciousness of a country on the brink of change. In a nation defined by its relentless pursuit of freedom and innovation, Karoline's words will continue to inspire generations, reminding them that true strength lies not in the silence of conformity, but in the bold, unfiltered expression of one's truth. No cap.